Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Come on in, take a seat, have a tasty treat. Put up your feet, sit back, relax, and welcome back to Backlook Cinema, the podcast. I'm your host, Zoe. That's Z-O or Z-O if you're outside of the U.S. It's the 115th episode. Thank you for downloading or streaming. We really appreciate it. We watch movies that I love when I was growing up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And I talk about my favorite parts, and I give you my son's impressions, except for this episode, because we weren't able to combine our schedules so that we could be on the, watch the movie together. So I just watched it by myself, but not totally by myself. But before I get into that, if you like what you're about to hear, then please tell your family, tell your friends, tell all of your neighbors, tell your neighborhood jerk about our humble little show, Backlook Cinema, the podcast. Now, what I meant was that I'm not watching it alone is because remotely in some far off land, I was joined by a return special guest, a guest of his own podcast empire containing multiple shows. But the main show is Movie Lovers Unite. And I've had him on the show before. I have members of his podcast empire on the show before. And allow me to welcome back the great, the powerful John DiGregorio. All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Intro, man. You can't go no wrong with that. I do appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. And John, since you've been on the show a couple of times before, instead of doing a regular interview where I ask you like the ins and outs of where you came from and whatnot, I'm going to ask you a bunch of weird and stupid questions out of this deck
sounds
that
good.
I found.
I'm good. I'm good with that.
So the first weird and stupid question is, what secret conspiracy would you like to start?
Let's see. I would like to actually talk about the conspiracy of probably, what people put into their chicken.
I'm going to start the conspiracy that the moon is actually getting closer and it's going to crash into the earth. That'll be fun.
Oh.
I mean,
yeah, that is.
I'll have the flat earthers beat. Now, what you're saying, the second weird question I have is, if you could sing a duet with anyone, who would it be?
Ooh, that's actually a good one. I would have to go with Lionel Richie.
Lionel Richie. That's pretty cool. He's a classic vocalist and songwriter. He's pretty cool. I haven't actually thought about the question. I don't know who I want to do a duet with. There's so many people, but I've been listening to Steve Martin and his group. So right now, Steve Martin, I want to do a duet with Steve Martin.
I might actually also put Joe Pesci on there because he does have a jazz album out there.
Oh, does he? I did not know that. I got to go and find that one. I'm listening to a lot of weird things. And finally, the last question is, who is the most famous person you've ever met?
That'll be Coleman Domingo.
Right. Didn't you do an interview with him?
Yeah, I did an interview with Coleman Domingo. I had an opportunity to speak with him because of the fact that I ended up doing a movie that he wrote and directed.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
And it really was. I wasn't expecting it because it was like a short story. And of course, I was doing the Holly Shorts Film Festival. And so this landed on me. So I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. Next thing I know, I tweet out, I'm doing a review of Coleman Domingo's film. And I actually tagged Coleman. Next thing I know, he liked my post.
Right.
And started retweeting it. But another one I would actually have to go with too is Robert Englund.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I got to meet him at a con.
Oh, okay. That I like the cons because you do get to sometimes get up and close and personal with some of the greatest actors. You know what I mean? It's like they're in a thing that you like Friday the 13th, or in my case, Star Trek or some other property, and then you get to meet them, and that's pretty awesome. I would say like the most famous person I met outside of the context of like a con or just like weirdly bumping into somebody in a store is like I was at work and as a security guard in Hawaii, and there was a dude that was like walking around with his with a friend of his, and they were on, I guess it was a double date, and it turned out to be Cuba Gooding Jr. So I
Oh,
I met Cuba Gooding Jr. On the job, and he was well wasted and does not remember me. Probably doesn't remember that whole night. It was way back when he was filming Pearl Harbor, and it was him and his bodyguard. Now, in my capacity of a security officer, I generally don't speak to people unless spoken to, just
right.
trying to keep it cordial. So he came up to me and introduced himself, so I thought that was cool.
That is pretty cool that he just randomly just introduces himself.
Yeah. I think because it was late at night, I was the only one there. And, he just saw somebody, thought it'd be cool to say hello. So he's a pretty cool person.
That is pretty cool. I'm actually jealous of that you actually had someone outside of a con that just wanted to have a conversation with you, even though it's some kind of capacity.
Not even a conversation, just saying hello, right?
I still hold that as a conversation.
Right.
Just a casual walk by.
in a con, I met I can't remember her name, but she played the Dobble girl on Deep Space Nine. And I also met Robert Picardo. He played the Doctor on Voyager. And I probably met
nice.
Yeah. I probably met some other people, but I've forgotten about them already. Oh, I wouldn't call it a meeting, but Jean-Claude Van Damme, while he was incognito, had asked me to directions to the gym at the same place.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was funny, right? Because it was like a weirdly dressed dude. He was in like short shorts, and he had on like a baseball cap and sunglasses, and he talked funny. And I didn't recognize him at first, and so I kind of told him where the gym was. And then after he left, I was like, "Oh, that's right, that's Jean-Claude Van Damme." and then he went. Oh no, I was just saying. Then he went to the pool, and he dropped the subterfuge. He was like, he looked exactly like he normally looked in the movies. This is back like, I don't know, like 30 years ago when he was like at the peak of his fame. And, he like the slick back hair, the charming smile. He was all of that.
That's pretty cool though. I mean, to actually see Jean-Claude Van Damme in his prime like that's awesome. Yeah. Because, okay, so I'm a huge Jean-Claude Van Damme fan and everything too, but, a couple of years ago, I was listening to this one podcast, right? He had Jean-Claude Van Damme on his show, and all he talked about was cookies.
That's wild.
Like 20 minutes, that's all he talked about was cookies.
Right.
I'm like, what?
I guess, like, when you're staying in shape and you can't eat all of the things like regular people do, is like you just fantasize about the sugary sweets, right?
Right. So I guess now that he's older, he's like, you know what? I don't have to keep this physicality anymore. I can just eat whatever I want. So I'm just going to talk about cookies.
Right. But he still looks pretty good. He's still doing the splits.
Might have a little bit of a hard time getting right back up from the splits, but
maybe,
he's still doing.
Maybe, yeah, but he's still in pretty good shape. So
that's pretty cool.
You got some things you want to plug?
Yeah. A matter of fact, we're gonna be I have a couple of shows lined up for the first part of May. I got the RoboCop review that I'm doing with Abby from Motor City Nerds that I'm doing. I've also got a couple of interviews lined up as well that I'm going to be trying to do. So, yeah, that's pretty much everything I have as far as the stuff going on at Movie Lovers Unite. Right now, I did put up a trailer reaction for Transformers Rise of the Beast, so people can go on ahead and check that out. Of course, I did the Peaches Super Mario Brothers reaction of me reacting to that. And matter of fact, I'm actually editing out one other reaction where Jimmy Fallon is singing Hello featuring Lionel Richie. So that's also another thing. So I thought that was actually pretty funny. So I have those things that I'm editing. So yeah, I have a couple of trailer reactions I'm dropping, a couple of shorts, just feeding the machine of YouTube.
Right.
And also doing, as you would say, doing the Lord's work.
Right. Yeah. I've been thinking about doing trailer reactions, but the problem is when I see a trailer, I click on it right away. So like,
I'll tell you what, man, it's actually the hardest thing to do because I have friends that will go ahead and send me trailers.
Right.
I'm like, dude, I know it dropped, but I cannot watch this until later.
Right. So
I want to geek out with you, but I can't do it.
I've seen a couple of trailer reactions and people are super excited. And then it's like, so when I saw the latest trailer, it's like, oh, this is the real trailer right here. And it was like, I was like, okay, that's good. That's problematic. And I'm referring to Unicron coming to Earth because you would expect some gravimetric problems, like with, hurricanes or earthquake. They address that issue in an actual Transformers cartoon, but they don't really show it in the trailer. So I don't know if that's a dream sequence or if he's actually there. And it's like, where are the weather events that would occur with two planets so closely together? That's what I'm looking for.
That's gonna be interesting.
Or maybe Unicron is like hollow, or he just doesn't have the mass of the Earth and he can't cause that kind of issue.
I was actually looking for those problems too, though, because if you remember in the Transformers the movie, that's how Transformers died.
Yeah, well, a lot of Transformers died because the Decepticons shot them. The Megatron shot a bunch of Autobots, and then Unicron ate some of the Decepticons, but he either ate them or he transformed some of them. So Megatron becomes Galvatron, another one becomes Cyclonus, and another one becomes a group of the Sweeps, and then Starscream is destroyed by Galvatron. So it was a lot of destruction going on. And it was so funny with Transformers, the movie, because they were doing things in the movie that the toy company wanted to do, that the writers were saying, no, this is a bad idea. We can't do this. This would traumatize kids. And the toy company was like, no, we want to get rid of these toys so we can sell more toys.
So instead, we're going to traumatize these kids and make them wonder what's going on over here.
Right. They didn't understand. We didn't want these new toys. We want the old toys, and what you're doing is traumatizing and it's garbage. So
exactly. That's the way how I remembered Transformers the movie.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So what was I going to say? I think that's it. I think there was something I was going to say, but it's gone now. It's gone. It's flown the coop. I had something. It was like on the cusp of my memory, and it was fleeting, and it went away. So we're just gonna go. Maybe it'll come back. It'll come back later on, and I'll address it. So while that's gone, we're gonna go on to the next segment, which are the opening credits. The movie that we saw was The Jerk. So if you would please, John, let our audience know what The Jerk was about.
Okay, so The Jerk is about Navin, who grew up poor in the deep south in the African-American family who loved him. He realized that he was different from his family and decided to go out to the wider world to find what was missing in his life. On his journey, he finds love, wealth, and failure.
Yes. And strangely enough, I thought I added something to that, but I guess it's gone. No, I know what happened. I wrote something similar on the website version on the, like when you're doing the podcast and you're writing the notes and the show notes in the podcast, I wrote something different there. That's why I'm all confused. But yes,
don't feel bad.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad though, man, because that happens to me too. I'm like, I have two different sets of notes,
right? And
it's like I don't know which one I want to go with, so I go with option 2 instead of option A sometimes. So yeah, I get you.
but you're exactly right. It's a dude, and it's a rags to riches to rags story. That's also how it's been described. It was released December 14th, 1979, produced by Universal Pictures and Aspen Film Society. It grossed over $73 million in the US and Canada on a $5.9 million budget, so almost $6 million, and it had great reviews. An excellent return on the money for that movie. And they made so much money. Strangely enough, no theatrical sequel. It did have a sequel. It was a television movie called The Jerk 2, Nobody liked it. It totally sucked.
I didn't even know it had a sequel, so that's news to me. I mean, I thought this was like one of those one and done films.
Yeah.
To the point where it didn't need it, but I guess because this movie made bank, this movie had positive reviews, so we're going to try and redo what we did with Steve Martin.
Right, but it's a made for TV movie, so I believe that would mean that it was a completely different production staff. So I guess the studio, because usually the studios own the film, the studios decided that they were going to make a sequel, even though nobody else involved in the original version was interested in making a sequel, because sometimes with certain types of comedies you can't do it again. So the same thing happened kind of with Airplane. So I did Airplane a while ago, and the writers who made Airplane had decided that they could not make a sequel because all of the airplane puns that they used in that movie were all the ones that they could think of. It's like they used them all up. They couldn't think of any more that would fit in the sequel. But the studio made a sequel anyway, and it bombed because you've used up all the airplane puns. What are you going to do?
Exactly. And that's also why I don't like Airplane 2. I prefer Airplane 1 over Airplane 2 any day, because like you said, the jokes didn't land. It was very stale. It was like very cringeworthy to the point those jokes didn't hit because they used up all the material that they had in the original film. So even with this, I would actually have to say that if I did see the sequel, they probably ran out of room off of the first one to cover for the second one.
Right. That's exactly right. But it's not closed, so you can imagine them making like a series or something out of it. I think they could probably do the Jerk TV series if they were like to reimagine it with like modern jokes and then have it like carry on as a series with his adventures in Hollywood or whatever. That would probably work. But as far as like doing a sequel, it's kind of hard to know where he would go, like after the end of the first movie and then starting a new movie. They could probably do it, but you have to be real creative, because it's like when they did it was like, remember, it's a television movie, so they don't have Steve Martin, they don't have the original writers, and they don't have the pretty much anybody that was involved in the first movie, like none of the other actors reprising their roles. So how are you going to make that sequel? Nobody wants to see a sequel about a Steve Martin movie if Steve Martin's not in it, right? Because that was the Jerk was, and I mentioned it later on in the trivia, the Jerk was based off of some of his comedy routine. So as a comedian, so just like Jerry Seinfeld, when he made the show Seinfeld, the show was based off his comedy routines, and that's why you can't do a show with Seinfeld without Jerry Seinfeld, right?
Right. It wouldn't be called, you might as well just call it Kramer and be done with it.
Right.
For example. But yeah, you can't make a Jerk without Steve Martin.
Right.
That's the way it is. You know?
So, you know what? I didn't highlight any of these like I was supposed to. Oh my God, I knew I was going to be slacking. So I'll start off with we're going to go and talk about who started in the movie. So I'll start the first one, and then we'll just go back and forth until we finish off who's starring the film. So Steve Martin, he's the star, obviously. He plays Navin R. Johnson. He's been in Roxanne, Little Shop of Horrors, and Parenthood, and a bunch of other movies and TV shows.
Okay. And Bernadette Peters, she plays Mary Kimball Johnson, and she played in Pennies for Heaven, Anastasia, Annie, 1982.
And then it's funny, right? Because for some reason I keep confusing Bernadette Peters with Madeline Kahn, and I'm never going to get over it. I'm always going to have them confused. Up next is Caitlin Adams. She played Patty Bernstein. She's been in Underworld Awakening, The Jazz Singer, and No Pay Nudity. I don't know what that's about. And I don't know if she's had any like huge roles, because most of her roles are on television. As a matter of fact, most of these actors have roles on television. I try to like just put their movie credits, but some of them, they're more well known on television than in the movies. So we're going to see that with the next one.
Gotcha. Yeah, Underworld Awakening is probably like the biggest thing that I see here that Caitlin's done, you know?
Right.
So that's the one that stands out the most for me.
Right. I think that some people might remember The Jazz Singer too.
Okay.
But that's an
So
old
next up,
movie.
I haven't. To be honest with you, I haven't seen The Jazz Singer.
Right, neither have I.
So next up, we have Mabel King, who plays, Naven's mother, and she played in The Wiz, Scrooge, and What's Happening.
Yeah. So What's Happening is a TV show that I watched when I was growing up. It was like you get home from school, you watch the cartoons, and maybe watch a little Mr. Rogers, maybe watch something called 3-2-1 Contact. And then after that, the shows that the comedies, what do you call them? Sitcoms. They would come on after all the cartoons. Like there's nothing else to watch. Everything, all the cartoons are gone. Even the kid shows are gone. So sit down and watch What's Happening, or The Jeffersons, or what's the other one? I'm trying to think. There was a show that I had on the tip of my tongue. I was going to say Archie Bunker, but he wasn't on. That was still like, what do you call it? That wasn't a rerun. That was airing live.
Yep.
So
Right.
I was trying to think of the reruns that I watched. You watch any reruns when you was growing up?
Oh yeah, I watched a lot of stuff like the Three's and Company reruns. I also watched Silver Spoons, Different World. Yeah, I've watched a lot of different reruns and stuff like that. Even Andy Griffin and things like that.
Yeah, I watched all those shows.
The list just goes on.
Oh, I remember what I was trying to remember. I think I mentioned the Jeffersons, but I also watched Good Times.
I watched those.
Good Times. It seemed like all those shows seemed to come on one after another. And regarding What's Happening, one of the characters' name is Roger. He's a skinny black kid, and Mabel King plays his mother. And people used to say I look like him because there was a time when I was skinny back in the day. So up next is Richard Ward. He played the father. He's been in Brubaker, Mandingo, and Across the 110th Street. These are all very old movies. And I used to think Mandingo was a rated X film, but apparently not.
Oh my God. I haven't seen any of those either. So that's like way before my time. So, I would probably thought that was an X-rated movie though too.
The way they used to talk about it, yeah. But no, it's not. It's a slave film. And all of those movies are way before my time too.
Let's see here. Next, I have Dick Anthony Williams, who played Taj Johnson. He played in Edward Scissorhands, Dog Day Afternoon, and Blood and Bone.
Alrighty.
And Edward Scissorhands is hands down one of my favorite Johnny Depp movies, so I definitely remember him being in the movie. Dog Day Afternoon, I watched certain scenes from here and there, but I never sat down to fully watch Dog Day Afternoon. But I guess I can put that down on my list. I've seen it since I saw pieces of it.
Up next is Emmett Walsh. He played the Madman. He's been in Blood Simple, Blade Runner, and Critters. For a second there, I thought he was the same guy who played the fat dude in Superman. What was his name? I can't remember.
I can't remember that either, but I know who you're talking about.
Otis. That's his name.
Yeah, Otis.
I thought but it's not. It's a completely different person.
But yeah, let's see here. We also have Jackie Mason, who plays Harry Hartinen.
Good enough.
Played in the History of the... What's that?
I was like, your pronunciation is good enough.
Okay. History of the World Part 1, Caddyshack 2, and The Simpsons.
Yeah, so he's a very famous comedian from back in the day, and he'll pop up in comedy films as a cameo a lot of times, and his voice is frequently heard on The Simpsons. So the last credit I have is Pig Eye Johnson, and he played the cat juggler. Now, obviously, Pig Eye Johnson is actually Steve Martin, but I put him there as his own credit because in the movie he has his own credit.
And it's funny though because you don't even recognize him as the juggler, the cat juggler.
You don't recognize him because his hair is black and whatnot, or he's wearing a black hood, but he moves like Steve Martin. Like as he was moving around, I was like, "Oh, that's him. He's playing another part." But one part that I didn't realize is that Carl Reiner, he appears in the film as himself. He's billed as Carl Reiner, the celebrity. So he plays that part, but he also plays the truck driver when the jerk, when he's hitchhiking. The first car he gets into takes him to the end of his fence. Like, so he drives him a few feet, then he has to get out of the truck. So that truck driver, that was Carl Reiner, and I totally didn't recognize him.
Oh wow, I didn't even recognize him either, though.
Yeah,
to be honest. That's definitely interesting.
Right. Oh shoot! Hold on. There we go. I clicked on something and it ruined my notes, but I got it back. So tell us who directed the movie.
Okay, so it's actually directed by Carl Reiner, and he directed movies like 10 Men Don't Wear Plaid, Oh God, Hey Man with Two Brains. He-Man with Two Brains, not Hey-Man, sorry. But He-Man with
It's supposed that's a typo. It's supposed to be The Man with Two Brains. The man, that's my bad. So The Man with Two Brains, that's a Steve Martin movie. Oh God is George Burns movie.
Burns.
And Dead Man Don't Wear Plaid is another Steve Martin movie. The only one on this list that I saw was Oh God. And I wouldn't say that it was laugh out loud funny, more like chuckles. I guess maybe because I was so young when I watched it. And
I haven't seen that movie in ages.
Yeah. But it was one of those things where, like, George Burns was, like, all over the place. It's like one of those celebrities that just popped up everywhere. And so you're a fan just because he kept showing up. And so I watched this movie and I was like, it's okay. It's sort of funny.
Right. I need to go back and revisit that because I remember as a kid loving it and cracking up. Right. But I don't know how it holds up now.
Right.
Compared when I was a kid. So that's going to be interesting if I ever do. But I'm kind of let down that was not called. But I'm kind of let down he didn't direct He-Man with Two Brains. Because I would definitely watch that.
Right. So this movie was written by Steve Martin, Kyle Gottlieb, and Michael Elias. So Martin wrote the screenplay and story. He also wrote Roxanne, LA Story, and The Pink Panther. He's actually credited with writing a lot of the films that he starred in. Gottlieb is another screenplay, and he also wrote the screenplay and story, and he wrote Jaws, which we covered in episode 111, and not a whole bunch of credits. He also wrote Caveman and Dr. Detroit, but I think he wrote a lot of television. And then Elias, he wrote the screenplay. He also wrote Young Doctors in Love, The Frisco Kid, and Steve Martin, A Wild and Crazy Guy, or one of the writers on there because it's a comedy routine. And obviously, Steve Martin wrote most of that.
But Jaws actually is the one that stands out to me because Jaws is actually hands down my favorite movie.
Yeah, Jaws. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Gottlieb actually had a bit part in Jaws as well. Tell us about the music.
Jack Elliott, who was actually a composer for The Jerk. Elliott was actually a composer for many other things. For director Andy Williams for a long-running series, and later produced and conducted the NBC television special Live from Studio 8H, 100 Years of American Popular Music. He also wrote themes for The Night Court, which is actually one of my favorite shows, co-wrote and themes to Barney Miller and Charlie's Angels with Alan Ferguson.
Awesome. Thanks for the save.
You're very welcome.
So that's it for the opening credits. And if you're enjoying the show, remember you can get t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, face masks, jerseys, and more at our website, backlickcinema.com/shop. I'm wearing one of the t-shirts right now, if you can see it.
Really like that. That's actually a nice design.
Yeah, I was just thinking one day, and I happened to write down the design. Sometimes, if you just write down something right away, it could turn into something great instead of just having a thought and just letting it fleet away, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad my phone has a notebook feature where it's like I just pull up the note section and just sketch stuff out. I got some sketches on my phone. I should be doing some designs, but maybe later.
I understand that, man, because in my store too, I haven't done a design since I did Mr. Miyagi, I think.
Right.
It was like, no. I take that back. It was our Movie Loves Unite logo was like my last one that I've done.
And you got an.
Which
I noticed that it was updated maybe a couple months ago. So was that like a logo generator, or you had an artist just do that one?
I actually have an artist that did that one for me for the logo that you have now.
Right.
But yeah, I'll actually give you the artist name and everything, and you can use it for yours. He even did my intro music and things like that too.
Oh, nice. It looks really good. I'll say it's much better than the last one, only because you can actually see the title now. Because before it was really hard to see the title.
Yeah, it was like really tiny font.
Yeah.
I tried doing my own logo; it just does not work.
Right. So, that's it for all of our announcement. Now, let us transition to the trivia. Wait, that's totally wrong. We're not supposed to be going to the trivia. We're supposed to be going to talk about our favorite parts. Continue the song. All right, now we're back to our favorite parts. Here's the thing. I can't read, okay? The words are right in front of my face. And I was like, like when I said trivia, I was thinking to myself, this feels wrong. I've only been doing this for 100 episodes. I should know this by now, but no, apparently not. No, I'm just skipping around, not reading my own notes and getting confused. You know what, John? How about you take over? Let the audience know what your favorite parts of the movie were.
Okay, so thanks for the nice transition. I do appreciate that. But yeah, my favorite part is like how naive Navin actually is to his own. When you look around the house, he's the only person that's white, and he's wondering if he's ever going to end up being another color, which I thought was hilarious because it's his birthday and they're all giving him gifts. And as he's getting the gifts, he's like, look, and then I like how the mother looks at her husband and she goes, should we tell him or should we not tell him? Because I don't know, should we? Next thing you know it, she's like, well, I just want to let you know that you're going to be white all your life. What? I'm going to be white? Yeah, so I just thought that was just funny.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts as well. It's one of the parts that I remember from watching this movie. I've forgotten most of this movie, but there are a couple of things that I remember. So that was one of the things. One of my favorite lines was, "You mean I'm always going to be this color?"
And the poor guy don't have no rhythm.
Right. That's the thing. They throw in a lot of clues that it's almost like he has a genetic memory of his original culture. So one of those things is, or I should say his culture of origin. So one of the things that one of his favorite things to eat was a tuna salad sandwich with mayo. They emphasized that there was mayo on the sandwich, right?
Right.
Because those in the black community that have a thing about mayo, they think that it's only for white people or something like that. And I happen to enjoy mayo, so I don't know what all the hubbub is about. But they made sure to emphasize it in the movie. And then the other thing was, it was the sandwich. He had a tab and Twinkies. That was supposed to be his favorite meal, right? Not something that like in the deep South, a family would consider their favorite meal. And then
exactly.
Right. And then there was the fact that he had absolutely no rhythm. So the movie opens up, he is totally offbeat. He couldn't get on beat. When he's is that part, and then when he's in the room and his mama talking to him, revealing that he wasn't naturally born to them, that they had found him on a doorstep, and then they're hugging, and then she's singing to him, and he's beating her back, but off beat, right? He's totally off. He can't catch the rhythm.
He's like, come on, son, let's sing some blues. It always depresses me. Next thing you know, she starts humming to him, and I'll let you do that part.
Right. He's like, you'll get it, honey. You'll get it. So, all of this, and it kind of reminds me of, you know who Tommy Davidson is?
Yeah, I do.
So Tommy Davidson, he's been on In Living Color. He's also a voice actor, and he pops up every once in a while in movies and TV shows. So he's a black comedian, but he actually grew up in it's either a white family or a mixed family. So when he was growing up, he considered his family like his natural family, and that people were different colors, just like animals are different colors. Like dogs are black and white and brown, and they can be born from a dog that's either black or white or brown. So he thought people were the exact same way, right? so it was weird when people would treat him differently than they would treat his brothers and sisters. So it's like
Right.
Navin Johnson from this movie has a similar experience, except he's never been on the outside world. It's like, so as far as he's concerned, he's as black as the rest of the family. He's just a different color.
Right. And totally a fish out of water too, because
Yeah.
he's never been outside. Like you said, he'd never been outside of his house or anything before either.
Right.
So what gave him inspiration was after he heard the song being played on the radio, he's like, you know what? I'm thinking about going to St. Louis because
Right.
that's where I heard. For him, that would be the perfect place for someone of his stature to actually be able to do that.
Right.
So, and I just thought that was funny. But there was also another part though that like was whenever the family's giving him advice, and like, remember, you if you get something, kill it. And or something like that to that.
Right. There was one where his father gave him. His father said, "You see this right here? This is shit," and he points the shit on the ground. And he said, "This is shinola," and shinola is tobacco, chewing tobacco. But that was the advice, and then he just walks in the shit.
And I understand the analogy that he's trying to tell him. Look, either you can choose to walk in shit, or you could have this as part of your life, which is actually better than shit. That's what I got.
I guess it didn't mean anything to me. I was like,
I am going deep with it.
It's like that's definitely a joke I didn't get, because it's like that.
Yeah.
I understand it was supposed to be funny. It's like I don't understand why his father would tell him that. It's like those are the only two things I know, that is shit and this is shinola. And he doesn't even like. The father might chew tobacco, but the son does not. Like Nevin does not chew tobacco, so that was kind of weird that he would tell him that. And there was something else. There was
It was don't trust Whitey.
Also had
That's
that.
also.
Well, go ahead.
Don't trust Whitey was also another.
Yeah. That was funny. Right. And some of it wasn't even practical advice. Some of it was just something that they was telling him, but he was just taking it as like something to live by. So he's very simple-minded, and they kind of know that he's simple-minded, but they just let him do his own thing. Like they don't impede on him learning from just learning on his own. Like it's like he'll get it. Like so when he leaves the house and they all hug and say goodbye, and then they go in the house. And then the mom's talking about, oh, I miss him already. It's like nighttime. He leaves in the daytime and it's at nighttime. And they're having dinner. And she says, I miss him already. It's like, I wonder what he's doing. And then his little sister looks out the window and he's still standing there on the corner waiting for a ride. And she's like, oh, it looks like he's doing all right.
He's like, it's like he just left here.
Right. She said it feels like he just left. Like, yeah, he did just leave. He's not even left yet. He's just standing at the end of the street. So, they're not too bright either.
No. And then my other favorite part, though, too, is the part where he's hitchhiking, trying to get a ride. He goes, look, where are you headed? I'm headed to St. Louis. Oh, okay. Well, where are you heading? To the end of that fence over there. Okay, I'll take it.
Right. And he starts to tell the dude his story. And by the time he gets out the first sentence, then he has to get out the truck because it's the end of his fence. That's the thing about it. The truck driver says, I'm driving to the end of this fence, but he's going to drive to the end of the fence. But he's driving to the end of Nathan's fence, right, where he lives at. So he just drives a few feet, and then Nathan has to get out of the truck. So, yeah, and he's so happy about it, though. He's just so earnest and happy, right?
It's like I actually went about four spaces.
Right.
Where I was, so therefore I'm traveling.
He could have walked there,
right?
But no. Eventually he hitchhikes. He ends up in St. Louis. He gets his first job. I had to make a note of this. The manager's basically like he gets off at a gas station and the manager says that basically just hires him on the spot, right? Just under some weird circumstances. And he's like, I'll pay you $1.10 an hour. Now, this would be funny had we had some context at the time. Like, I didn't have any context, so I don't know why that would be funny. Do you know why that's funny?
Because at that time, I think it's because of the fact that $1.10 was not the highest paying job that you can get at that time, I think.
Yeah.
It's like below the normal rate, I think.
Right. They do a
so
good
therefore,
job.
I think that's right.
I was just saying they do a good job in the movie of implying that it's lower. It's lower than legally possible. It's lower than should be allowed by law. And in fact, the minimum wage, I looked up a bunch of numbers. So the minimum wage at that time was $2.90. The wage that the guy was paying, that was $1.10. So less than half a minimum wage. But if you adjust $1.10 for inflation, that would be $4.44 today. So it'd be like today, the guy offering him $4.40 an hour, when minimum wage in the national minimum wage is $7 and some change, and in some states it's $15 an hour. So he was getting away with murder. He was getting away with paying some simpleton the lowest possible rate. And it's also like just shenanigans ensue at the gas station.
Right? It's like, okay, well, I can hire somebody for low pay without him even knowing and do shit labor, and he wouldn't even know it because he's just happy to be there.
Right.
Which is true. Maven is just happy to be there. I like how he goes, look, can I use the bathroom? Look, it's only for customers. Here. He gives him a lighter. He goes, put some fluid in it. I got to use the bathroom. And the key is on a rim.
Right. The key is on a car rim or a car wheel, and just so that nobody would run off with the key, apparently.
I think that's a little too noticeable.
Here's the thing, and I get the joke because they still do that. They still attach the keys. Like whenever you need the key to go somewhere, and in a public restroom, they attach the key to like a brick or something, right? So just to so that you don't run off with it,
right?
So
but yeah, especially like a hubcap or something. Too.
Yeah.
That's actually another thing I saw where I think it was on Friday or next Friday where the father ends up having to use the bathroom and they give him a key, but it's a hubcap that he's carrying into the bathroom.
Right. So I guess the statement is gas stations are ridiculous.
Yep.
But at the same time, please don't run away with this key. It's happened a billion times before. So I don't know who's really to blame here. I liked there was a part when there's a lot of jokes here. I remember some of them. I didn't write all of them down, but one that I just remember was when the gas station owner, right? After he offers Naven a job, he offers him a room at the gas station, but this is a tiny gas station. And so he opens up the door to the bathroom, and the neighbor says, "This is perfect. I can put a bookshelf right here. I can knock out this wall, move it over there so that this room flows into the living space." It's like, oh my God, he is. And it's already a guy in there. First of all, he's been in the bathroom before. Second of all, there's a guy in the bathroom using it. So how does he not know that this is a bathroom? And he's so excited to live in the bathroom.
And then he goes, no, this is over here. Oh, I could never afford the space anyways.
Right. And then
he's even more excited because he's living in a closet.
Right.
And he's talking about his place.
Right. There's a closet in the bathroom where it's a large storage closet, and he moves in. He's like, he goes into the large storage closet and is like, "This is perfect. I don't have to change anything." So yeah, it was. I liked how earnest and excited he was. Like, he saw his name in the newspaper and he was like, "I'm somebody now. Things are going to start happening to me now." He's so excited about everything. It's just crazy. I just loved how dumb he was and how he was able to express how dumb he was. He was so stupid. it made it so funny. And that's what it's like. They started with the premise is like, Maven is very stupid, and we got to exploit this at every opportunity.
Of how stupid he actually is.
Right. And they did an excellent job of exploiting that.
Especially the part where the guy's trying to shoot him and the cans are exploding. He looks at his bus. Oh my God, these cans are exploding. We have to get away from the cans. And then he goes near the vending machine. They have cans in there too. And then he goes over to where the inside of it, where there's more motor oil. And he's like, "There's cans here." And he starts knocking down all the cover he has to cover. He knocks it over just to give the guy who's shooting him enough room to be able to shoot him.
Right.
If only, and he would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for the fact that the gun actually got stuck. The chamber got stuck.
Well, also, it was a bad shooter because, like, when he first aiming at him, he's like, he had a clear shot the first time and he misses. That's why, like, Naven is standing by the cans and the madman, he's shooting at him with the gun and he misses and he's shooting the cans that's beside Naven instead of Naven. And Naven's first thought are, these cans are defective. And then it's like, oh no, these cans are exploding. And the store owner or the gas station owner, he's there at the time, and he's not shooting at the cans, he's shooting at you, dummy.
Okay, I'll distract him.
Right. He's going to distract him and get into it. He gets into a car with no tires, just the rims, and tries to drive off. Well, actually, he's kind of successful because the gunman doesn't shoot him, and he ends up in the circus from there. But he was a determined gunman that couldn't shoot. As a matter of fact, when Maven ends up in the circus, like the gunman is just as stupid as he is. Maven goes in the section that says carnival personnel only, and then when the gunman gets there, he drives to that point where it says carnival personnel only, and then he's like, oh darn, it's like, I can't go in because it's only for carnival personnel. So he's determined to kill somebody, but not willing to cross over this open door that says, or this open gate that says carnival personnel only. Like he can't break this particular rule, but he's willing to kill somebody based on a name that he found in the phone book. That's how he chose his victim.
He goes, this guy seems like a real douchebag with that kind of name.
Right.
So I think I'm going to go after him.
Right,
so he
winds up
going after Maven because of his name.
Right.
And
he found his name in a notebook. Or in a phone book.
But because of that stipulation, he doesn't want to go into the carnival because of that stipulation.
Right.
He even calls it to Maven's attention. You can't go in there, you idiot. You're not carnival staff.
He also tries to get the carnival's attention. He said, that guy, he's not carnival personnel, right?
No, right.
Obviously nobody cares. So that's how he ends up working for the carnival. And the funny part is that he's just there now. He's just there. He plays a guy who's guessing people's weight, and he can't do it right because he has to give them prizes. And then the carnival guy in charge, he's like, you just made $15, and the only thing you gave away was 50 cents worth of crap. And then afterwards he says, let me guess your weight and you can win some crap.
Because then all of a sudden the light switch just clicks on. It's like, oh, so I'm hustling people out of their money for this crap.
You're right.
Okay.
Right. So even though
now he lets it know to the public that what they're doing.
Right. So
which makes it even more comical.
It's funny, right? Because he's kind of a moron, but the light switches on. He starts to get it. Oh, but then he gives away the game by telling them that it's worthless junk that they're fighting for. But see, I think most people that go to carnivals know that it's kind of worthless junk. So, right? Because like when you're trying to win like a teddy bear or whatever, it's so much easier and cheaper to just buy the teddy bear at the store.
But it's just those bragging rights. It's like, look, I've won this teddy bear for that person that you're dating, just to impress that person.
Right.
But yeah, it's a whole lot easier just to buy the teddy bear at Walmart or something.
Right.
Just be like, here.
Right. Well, go ahead. Let me know what's another one of your favorite parts. I'm hogging all the airtime here.
Nah, you're good. But no, the other thing I really loved about this was when he meets Jamie Lee Curtis.
Is that no? That's not Jamie Lee Curtis. It
That's,
looks
that's
like
not,
her
that's
though.
what, I thought it was. Okay, well, my bad. All this time
No,
I thought it was Jamie Lee Curtis.
what you're thinking of is Caitlin Adams.
Oh, okay, that is Caitlin. Okay, so that's Caitlin Adams.
Yeah, yeah.
I was thinking that was, well, in my version, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Right.
But what I like about this is like when he meets Caitlin and goes, "See your name on my ass?" He goes, "Oh my God, you have my name on your ass."
Right by the J's. Super aggressive.
But yeah, very aggressive to the point where it's like, I wouldn't want this woman in my life at all.
Right. No, actually, he didn't. I don't think like he knew, like he was cognizant of like how she was sexually attracted to him. She wanted to jump his bones, and he really wasn't specifically cognizant of that. But what's happened? So she gets him in her trailer, and then she starts coming on to him and rubbing up against him, and then he's like, "What's happening to my special purpose?"
And then when he writes over to his family, he's like, "Look, I know what my special purpose is, and I promise I'm gonna use my special purpose all the time."
Right.
I like how the brother's looking like,
and the kids are not knowing what the special purpose is, and I think a lot of even some of the older kids don't know what the special purpose is. I don't know. She says something that she being the motorcycle rider who's jumping his bones, and like, "What's that?" And he's like, "That's my special purpose." My mom told me that was my special purpose, referring to his penis. His penis is a special purpose. That was the joke. That's why it's funny. But I loved when she's rubbing up against him and he says, "What's happening to my special purpose?" That is so
and
funny.
then just your special purpose is now mine. But I also like how he said, "Well, I lost my job at the gas station. Now I'm working at a carnival." And Caitlin's character, I forgot what the character's name is, but she said that she was going to give me a job. So she's going to give me a blow job.
Right.
Over there
I was like, I'm really going to get some money now because she's going to give me a blow job.
But yeah.
That's a good job too. It's a good job to have.
Definitely.
So another moment that I like is you had Steve Martin and he's on a ukulele. He's singing. He got a new girlfriend. That's funny because he's having trouble transitioning from one girlfriend to the next. So he's with his new girlfriend and he's playing the ukulele, and they have like a duet together. I should have wrote down the name of the song that they were singing. But then near the end of that, where they're singing to each other, she pulls out a trumpet and starts blowing the trumpet because the trumpet comes out of nowhere. So that's what makes it funny. But I thought that was like the most authentic that he was to himself because he plays the banjo. He's a musician. So in there, it's not like you're watching Navin R. Johnson. Now it feels more like you're watching Steve Martin doing a performance on screen.
Right. That's what I got out of that, though, too. And he's also picked the one woman who can actually play an instrument as well. So therefore, they have some common interest. So it's not like that it's forced in there. But then there's also that other part, too, when he's like, I like how she's also a, what's the word? Beautician?
Yeah.
And I like how she's just laying there still, like as someone that died.
Yeah, he's trying to, they're in the bed together. And he's trying to talk to her, and she's like, she looks like a corpse.
Right. He goes, look, there's something I want to tell you, but I'm going to wait till tomorrow. You don't have to say anything, but I'm going to ask you to marry me. Okay? So just don't say anything if you're okay with that. And then all of a sudden he just smiles and goes, okay, I'm going to tell you tomorrow.
Right.
And then he's over there taking the bath. taking his bath and everything. She's over there inside the next room writing a breakup letter to him. And then Shithead, which is his dog, because that's also another thing that we forgot to talk about was Shithead, which he was going to name him Lifesaver because the whole entire hotel almost catching on fire.
Well, what happened was this dog shows up at his door. He opens up the door, and the dog is barking at him. And he's like, "What's wrong, buddy? Is the mailman? Is Timmy gone down the well? Is the mailman having problems?" Like he's asking this dog all these questions, and it's like the dog's not talking; he's just barking. But for whatever, but because of the popularity of shows like Benji or Lassie, people just imagine they can talk to dogs. So this is a riff on those shows. So and then finally he says, "Is the hotel on fire?" And the dog continues to bark. And he's like, "Oh my God, the hotel's on fire." So he grabs some things, he puts on a robe or something, gets out as fast as he could. He starts waking everybody up at the hotel. Hey, everybody, the hotel's on fire. Everybody, the hotel's on fire. And everybody gets out of the hotel because they think the hotel's on fire. And then they wait. The police show up. The fire department shows up. The ambulance shows up. And then the fireman, he tells everybody, "It's a false alarm. There's no fire." And in the meantime, Naven said, "Oh, you're a good dog. I'm going to call you Lifesaver." And then a man comes up to him and he says, "You shouldn't call him Lifesaver. You should call him Shithead." So that's what the dog's name is throughout the rest of the movie, Shithead.
Oh my God. But yeah, she's writing up a breakup letter to him, and he goes, "Well, now I wasn't going to do it. I was going to wait until later, but now I figured now is the best time as ever. Will you marry me?" And all of a sudden the dog barks and he's thinking that it's his girlfriend, and he goes, "You made me the happiest man on earth. Come over here and give me a kiss." Next thing you know, the dog jumps in the tub with him and goes, "Not you, shithead."
Yeah. So she's writing a breakup letter just before he's asking her to marry him while he's in the tub. Like that, a crazy way to ask somebody to marry you.
Well, Rocky asked Adrian at least at the zoo as he was looking at a tiger. So I mean, at least Rocky got a chance to actually ask somebody out on a date. He didn't even wait. He just
right.
He just went with the very first thing that popped in his head.
There was also, the movie uses a lot of misdirection too, so the misdirections are funny. Where I watched a couple of horror movies with Rossie a couple of weeks ago, and they used the misdirection for horror, but in this case they used it for laughs. So there's a point where he has to go find this boy, like this before they become girlfriend and boyfriend. You had Marie, and she is like at the carnival, and her boy takes this kid that she's with takes off, and then Naven goes and he tries to find the kid, and he finds him on this train. So he goes and gets the kid off the train and brings the kid to Marie, and Marie says something like, "Thank you. Is there anything I can do for you?" And then Naven says, "Can I have a kiss?" And she says, "Sure." And he kisses the boy, which I don't think such a joke would probably work well nowadays.
No, definitely not.
I don't think it would work quite well. But that it was funny. And then there's another one where he's like, when they're alone together and they're like having a romantic moment together, and then he leans closer to her like he's gonna kiss her, and then he just licks her face. I'm like, oh my God, what's up with that? He's just out of the blue.
I think that is because of his relationship with Caitlin's character is probably what she does to him, since she doesn't want to kiss him. So she just licks him instead. So he's thinking maybe that's the way that people kiss, is that kind of way.
I mean, I guess there's also a thing where he mushes her face. Like, you think he's going to caress her face, and instead of caressing her face, he just mushes it up.
The other thing too was, like, remember when they were going to kiss out on the beach after they got done playing their instruments, and he was gonna kiss her, and she's like really cringy, cringing her face.
She's pushing him away. He's trying to kiss her, and is like she's pushing him away, and then after he stops trying to kiss her, they both act all exhausted. I think it's meant to represent like a point in an actual romance. Like if you're watching a romantic movie, it's meant to represent a tension between two people that are trying to come together. But but it's like they're not physically trying to keep each other apart, right?
Right, exactly.
Like as displayed in this movie. So what other parts you liked?
Okay, so there's also the other part where he's like, remember the $250 million he got because the thing on the lenses because of the guy that pulled up into the gas station? He winds up saying, wow, this looks great. You know what? I'm going to sell some shit. And you know what? We're going to split 50-50. So, you don't think anything of it or whatever. You're like, okay, this guy's probably not going to make anything off the optic grab because he makes like a little handle on the glasses to pull them on and off with instead of going from the lens. And so next thing you know it, after the breakup with Maven and his girlfriend, someone winds up hunting him down. It's actually the guy who was shooting at him, who delivers a letter saying, hey, look, you're going to get about $250 million, but he doesn't realize that he has $250 million or anything like that either, up until he goes to the bank. He goes, yeah, just 250 big ones. That's all I need. Some donuts. And then you look at the check, it's for 250 mil. So I thought that was actually pretty funny.
It was actually, I think it was 250,000. But
okay, I thought
the funny thing is that the guy told him that it was for 250 because he never actually looks at the check. He just sees the envelope and is like, yeah, it's for 250. He's like, and then he thinks he has $250. So because he kept saying, oh yeah, 250 big ones, 250. He thinks he's doing well because this is from the guy. He invented the OptiGrab, and the guy said he was going to split it, and actually does send him some money. Now the funny thing is, $250 in 1979. That's a pretty good chunk of change. So if you adjust that for inflation, it's over $1,000 today. And then when the banker, he gives the check to the banker and he looks at it and he sees all these extra zeros. He sees it's actually because the banker's kind of like bored and barely interested in this dude and his piffy $250. And then he sees the check and it's for $250,000 and then treats him as like an honored guest at the bank. So 250,000 adjusted for inflation is over $1 million. It's like $1,008,000, so he's technically a millionaire, right?
But I also like how he goes, money's not changing me at all. I promise. And he's writing to his parents. He goes, I promise you, money's not changing me at all. And he gets this big, huge painting of a naked woman on the painting. He winds up getting this big house, and he goes, do you remember the time whenever I said that I always wanted X amount this over at my house? And it was like a spinning bed.
Right. He started naming all of these things. He started naming like 3 pools and all of these pillars. And he named, remember when I wanted this gigantic room? Remember when I wanted a disco downstairs? Remember? He had some dreams. And that was funny. But before he moves into the big house, he lives in a smaller house. It's funny, right? Because he kind of, stuff simply happens out of nowhere. So when he's at the carnival, it shows him living out of a trailer, like a tractor trailer, container or something like that. And then in the next scene, him and Maria living in a regular house. So it seems like the regular house came out of nowhere. And then when Marie leaves him, she leaves him out the house. So apparently the house isn't even hers. So this house basically comes out of nowhere. This is before he's rich, right? But then when he gets the money, when he gets rich, he doesn't actually move out the house, or the house that he moves into is only slightly bigger than he had. And he has a live-in maid and a live-in butler. And they're all crammed into this little house. And so that's why they move into that gigantic mansion that you mentioned. Is that because the butler was like, you should get something bigger. Like you need something proper for if you're gonna have a living maid and butler. You need something more proper. So he buys this gigantic house, and later
This
on,
giant Tony Montana house,
right,
basically what
right,
it looks like.
right. And then, do you remember what happened to the maid?
No, I forgot about that scene. Go on ahead.
The maid got executed. She got executed by a firing squad of policemen on his lawn for some reason, not even at a district court, because she made an early withdrawal. Because back at the time, banks used to charge you ridiculous fees for withdrawing your money early.
Yep, that's true. I remember those days.
Right. So in this case, for whatever reason, it was an execution. That was the penalty for early withdrawal.
Make it look like he was like a mob boss, basically doing a hit on his own maid for withdrawing the money out early.
Well, no, it wasn't him.
Right? Or no,
it wasn't him. It was his bank. It was her.
Oh yeah,
bank.
the bank did that.
The bank did that. Right.
Okay.
That's what I was saying. That's why I said it was funny that it was happening on his lawn, because it was the bank that was doing an early withdrawal. The bank that was executing her. That's the thing about it. That's what makes it so weird.
That was hilarious, though, to be honest.
Right.
But
so,
yeah,
there was also Father Carlos Las Vegas de Cordoza or de Corboza or. So when he's rich, you got all of these people trying to get him to donate to charities and whatnot. And it's funny because I thought this was going to be like one of the reasons that he loses his fortune, but it has nothing to do with him losing his fortune. He's never scammed or whatever, or maybe they're trying to scam him, but that's not the reason why he loses his money. But there's a Father Carlos Las Vegas, and he says it so fast that you think that's his, like, you're not supposed to catch it, but he says it so fast that it's almost like they're hoping that you don't catch it. And I was like, wait a minute, he said Las Vegas. He said his name was Las Vegas.
My father's, yeah, I remember how fast he did. He goes, my father's Las Vegas. Right. And I was like, what? But yeah, it was funny.
Yeah.
And then he's like, so what do you, look, we need a couple of, we need some money, some donations for things that are happening around in this world. There's sick people out there. What kind of sick people? He goes, come on, I'll show you. So he takes out this video of this person juggling cats.
Right.
And he's like, this is a sick world. Who would do such a thing? He goes, I know, right? So look, we need this X amount of money right here to help us capture people that are juggling cats.
Right, right.
And he goes, here, I'll write out a check right now.
Right. Yeah, I remember he's like, yeah, I heard about this. So, what other parts can you think about?
There's also the other part where he tries to get his ex-girlfriend back again.
Right.
And she's in the mall. And of course, this is actually whenever he was first discovered that he has his money. And the mother's also bribing him for money and trying to mooch off of him too. Because remember, he goes, wait, Marie's working where? I've been trying to find out where she is. Well, if you give me couple of thousand, I'll give you the location. Because look, I can't do that. All I can do is $75.
Right.
So he's not as naive as people think he is now that he has money.
I think he's starting to get smart now. He's starting to smarten up.
It only took $250,000 to make him smart, you know? But he goes over to the mall and and of course she has this new makeup cosmetics thing that she's doing, and with this mask, so to make your face more authentic, to make it more lively, I think. Well, he winds up bribing the guy with $50 who's actually sitting in the chair, and then she's like, well, now let's unmask him, and it happens to be Naven, and she winds up kissing Naven, and then of course the woman who's thinking that's still her husband goes, you're kissing my husband.
Right. She starts beating on Marie, thinking Marie is stealing her man.
Right. But yeah, I thought that was actually pretty funny. And then of course he winds up going broke because of this, because of what people suing him because people are getting into car accidents because of the Opti blends handle that he has.
Right. So it was Carl Reiner. That was that was the other thing that I remembered from the movie. So Carl Reiner plays himself, and you got people wearing the OptiGrab. And so the way the OptiGrab works is that there's a handle at the bridge of the glasses that kind of loops around, and it rests on the bridge of your nose. So it's supposed to keep your glasses from sliding down. Because what happened is that in the beginning of the movie, this dude is wearing glasses, and Navin, when he was a gas attendant, is servicing the man's car, and the guy, every time the guy looks down, his glasses fall off. And at one point, the the man says, "Damn these glasses." And then Navin looks at the glasses and says, "I damn thee," which is funny to me because that's the proper use of damning something. It's like when you damn something, you're condemning something, but nobody actually uses that. They just use it as a curse. So when Nathan looks at the glasses and says, "I damn thee," that was so funny to me. But anyway, he goes, he says that he can fix the glasses. He takes the glasses and he attaches some wire to the glasses and he gives it back to the man. And basically he fashions the wires in such a way that it forms a loop at the bridge of the glasses, and so that it rests on the man's nose. And then the man can grab the glasses by the hoop as a handle. And the guy was like, "Yeah, this is great. I'm going to make 1,000,000 of these." Like you mentioned earlier, you talked about this earlier. I'm going to make 1,000,000 of these, and if people buy it, I'll give you half. And so that's exactly what he does. So yeah, but then Carl Reiner playing himself. The official credit is Carl Reiner Celebrity. He launches a clash action suit because people using the OptiGrab have become cross-eyed from removing their glasses. So everybody's cross-eyed, like cross-eyed as fuck. So he claims that because he's cross-eyed, now he doesn't have any depth perception. So now, like he shows an example of he tried to yell "cut" in a movie he was directing, and so when he would yell "cut," there's a driver in his car is supposed to stop, but because he had poor depth perception because of the OptiGrab, because he was cross-eyed, the car continues to go off a cliff and crashes at the bottom of this cliff. And then as the car is crashing, then he yells "cut," right? Because his timing is off. He can't see. He's cross-eyed. And then it's like the prosecutor is also cross-eyed. The judge takes off his glasses. The judge is cross-eyed. So he loses the suit because everybody who used the OptiGrab is cross-eyed, and they claim that they've lost their depth perception. And that's all hilarious.
And that's where they were suing for $10 million in damages.
Right.
And yeah, and leaving him broke.
And he was personally writing checks to each and every person who had bought the OptiGrab. He was refunding everybody $1.05. And I was like, so he's going to write out 10 million checks for
$1.05.
Right. So, so he's doing all of this. There's a point where he has a fight with Marie, and he says, "I don't need anything. I don't need all of this. I don't need you all. I don't need nothing except for this." And he starts grabbing stuff, and then I need this statue. I don't need anything except this dog. And the dog starts growling. "Well, I don't need the dog. I don't need anything except for this chair." So he walks out of the mansion with a bunch of random crap in his hands. He's walking down the street with his dressed in a robe with his pants at his ankles, and that's how we kind of find him at the beginning of the film. Except that, like in the beginning of the film, when we see him, he says, "I don't need anything except this thermos," right? So you wonder what happened to the thermos. Why didn't you expect him to pick up a thermos? That's one of the misdirections that they have. But instead of picking up the thermos, he picks up all this other crap, but he's walking down the street. And then he sees the lady with the thermos. So he trades all of his random crap that he had picked up, and he trades it for the thermos because he really wanted that thermos.
Well, I guess you have to drink. I guess you have to, if you're thirsty, you might want to have a thermos in your hand. So I guess he was thinking on that logical sense. But still, it makes it hilarious because all this stuff is actually expensive stuff that he has in his hands that he could pawn for money. But
yeah, he just walks out the house. He could have sold all of the stuff and he could have sold the house, but instead he just kind of walks out the house.
He's like, well, my life is over with. So there's no sense of. He doesn't even give the IRS or the investors any time to even clean his house. He just goes on in and does it.
Just leaves the house. And then, what you call it? Or presumably the house is already sold. The stuff is already sold. Maybe. Because he has to sell all of that stuff in order to satisfy the settlement. And then there was the, what you call it? So we see him like with just the thermos but at the same time he's drinking a wine bottle, so he's not even really using the thermos to drink out of.
Exactly.
I was just going to ask you if you saw any jokes that you didn't think was working or will work nowadays.
Yeah, there was that kung fu scene that Maven uses.
Yeah.
And the racial slurs. I'm like, I didn't realize this even had it in there because I'm going to be honest with you. The very first I seen the movie was on TBS.
Right.
So all that stuff. So then I've watched the Red Dart one a couple of years back and stuff like that too. But watching it in today's time, I'm like, yeah, none of these are going to end up. This part would have actually got X and Nade out of the script.
Right.
Today.
Yeah. So there's a scene where he's talking to some mobsters and they want him to do some kind of money scheme. They wanted him to invest in this, some property, right? And then the mobsters like, we're going to make sure that there aren't any. And then they mention a slur, but that he doesn't understand. I can't remember what the slur was, and I don't understand it either.
No,
and then
I don't.
And then Maven was like, "Huh? What are you talking about?" And then the mobster says, "The N-words. Who's going to get the N-words out?" And then Maven says, "I happen to be an N-word," and that's where it all falls apart.
Right. It's like, well, never mind. This is actually a bad investment. So
Right. But then he fights them off and he uses kung fu. And then that scene, I realized, you know what? Steve Martin's in pretty good shape.
For him to do that kung fu scene, yeah, definitely.
When I'm just talking about his musculature, he does. Oh yeah,
that's right.
Because I'm not sure if what he was doing was actually kung fu. It just looks good.
No, it's his interpretation of kung fu.
Right. But yeah, it was. But yeah, that scene was definitely cringy. That was the exact scene I was thinking about when I asked you the question. But I was wondering if there was anything else that probably wouldn't work now. Oh, I already mentioned the little boy kissing the little boy. That probably wouldn't work now.
No, definitely not because of everything that's going on in today's time. Yeah, those things would actually got crossed out of the script. Like, what the hell are you thinking?
Right.
I can see people like, I can see the studios going, why is this character doing this?
Right.
This is too maybe. No, we're not doing that.
I think
I can just see it.
I think the scene would have worked probably with one N-word and with Naven not actually saying it. Right?
Yeah, I was like, okay.
Like if it was just the mobster saying it and then Naven says another word. I understand why it's funny, but it's also very cringy.
Yeah, very cringy. I'm like, it made me uncomfortable. I'm like, I don't know if this would get played.
Right.
That was my first reaction. I'm like, this would actually get canceled.
Right.
but you know, different times compared to today and everything.
Right. So also the ending is kind of nice because his family finds him living on the street. They're wealthy now because the father's a financial genius. He invested the money because Naven continued, like even when he was only making $1.10 an hour, he would send a little bit of money to his family, even if it was only 45 cents. he was constantly sending money to his family. So when he was wealthy, he sent a bunch of money to his family, and his father took that money and invested it. It doesn't say in the movie, I don't think, but they're a family of sharecroppers, so they understand business. So now
Right.
they're all wealthy. They get back, and they're basically still living in the same shack of a house that they were living in. And then Neva says, and then we move to a bigger house. And then the scene flips in. It's just a bigger version of the same house. Like when I say bigger, it means it's a bigger door. It's a bigger window. It's just like, it's just an enlarged version of the exact same house. But the family's wealthy now. And what I liked about it is that at the end of the movie, he now has rhythm. He now has rhythm to his family music and not just like the instrumental music that he liked at the beginning of the movie. Now he's now he's in sync with his family. Marie's there because Marie helped find him. I like when they first find him on the street. Marie goes to kiss him and he says, "Well, I don't know, I'm kind of dirty." And she says, "Dirt doesn't bother me." And then she gets closer and she says, "But the smell does." Yeah. So, any thoughts on that? The end of the movie?
I thought this movie is still funny. It's just that those couple of scenes just doesn't stand up today.
Right.
Whenever I'm watching it, but other than that, though, I thought the film is still funny. I thought it still holds up in certain aspects not so much. But yeah, like I said, I remember during the summertime, I was actually in Boston whenever I first seen this movie on TBS. So the shithead part was edited out.
Right.
The N-word slur was actually edited out. But they still have I don't forget the words that they used to cover up the racial slurs. But yeah, those were the things that I remember the most watching it on the edited version of it.
Yeah,
but I thought it was still funny.
I don't remember how I saw this movie. I probably saw the edited version too when it came on TV. Well, because I don't remember. I remember watching it. Don't remember at all. I definitely don't remember most of the movie, and I don't remember the pool scene where he's fighting the monsters. I have no memory of that. So I imagine they probably cut that entire out because you don't need it in the movie, right? No. There's a lot of things, like anything, like anybody wanted to edit this for television, it can easily be edited and still maintain the same story. So don't know. I don't remember, like I said, how I watched the movie, but it's definitely one of my favorite movies. I still enjoyed it. How did you like it?
I still like it. I still love this movie. I would probably put this on a Sunday if I want to just have something to laugh at.
Right.
To be honest with you, because The Jerk is actually the one that stands out the most out of the Steve Martin movies. Don't get me wrong. I love Trains, Planes, and Automobiles. Right. And I also liked a couple of his other, like Father of the Bride also stands out for me because I love the chemistry between him and Martin Short. But this one still holds up for me, though, a little bit.
Right. I think I only seen this one. I think this is the only Steve Martin movie that I watched.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. I mean, I've seen a little bit of Saturday Night Live. I'm pretty sure I saw some of his stand-up, but I think this is as many movies as he's made, I think this is the only one I actually watched.
But yeah, I saw Roxanne, I saw Father of the Bride 1 and 2, Cheaper by the Dozens, Bringing Down the House. Yeah, I've seen just about everything out of his filmography almost.
Right. Definitely a prolific filmmaker. Are you also watching, what's it called? Only Murders in the Building?
I haven't seen that, but I heard it was good.
Yeah. Oh, no, I have seen another Steve Martin movie. I've seen The Three Amigos. That's also a funny movie.
The Three Amigos.
That's a classic. So that's it for what our favorite parts are. And up next, we're going to talk about the trivia. All right, we're back with trivia. We get our trivia from IMDb. It's mostly correct. I hope I don't have any typos in there. So why don't you go ahead and start us off with the trivia?
Okay, so Stanley Kubrick was a big admirer of this film. He would often recite lines from the film to cast and crew on his films, and he was once invited to Steve Martin over so they could play chess. That's actually pretty interesting.
It's definitely, you wouldn't expect Stanley Kubrick to be enamored with this film, like especially with
The
the
Shining.
with the type of movies he makes, and there's not a whole bunch of like laugh out loud moments in Stanley Kubrick's films. So yeah, it's funny. I like this little bit of trivia. Up next, Bill Murray filmed a cameo that was deleted on the Saturday, December 15th, 1979 broadcast of Saturday Night Live. Murray jokingly reviewed The Jerk, saying, "I was in the movie, but cut out of it. That doesn't influence my opinion. The movie is a dog, so there's something missing. I don't know who it is. I can't say."
I love Bill Murray. I really do. Bill is just awesome.
Right.
Let's see. The part where Nathan licks Mary's face during their first date was completely improvised. Bernadette Peters' reaction was genuine.
Yeah. She definitely gives him this look. Like, what are you doing?
Right? I don't remember this in the script. What are you doing, Steve?
Right. But she doesn't break character, which is genius.
That would have broke me. I'm sorry.
Right.
But that's just going to show you her credibility of how good of an actress she is, because that would have threw me off.
Yeah, I think because she understands, the type of movie that she's in. I guess she's ready to expect anything, or if something goes off kilter, she knows to stay in character, I guess. But yeah, that was a pretty cool expression on her face after he licked her face, because that felt genuine.
Right.
So because of a gas shortage, Steve Martin and Carl Reiner carpooled to the set every day. Reiner recalled, "Every day we came up with at least one or two new jokes on the way to work that day." What I found interesting was that the gas shortage hit hard. It was it was incredible.
Right.
The gas shortage had movie stars carpooling because it was like they were like, I don't want none of this smoke.
Right. But you know what's funny though? I would actually think too that maybe this is also where they came up with like the gas station bit or something on the carpool ride.
Probably,
like,
yeah. He said they came up with new jokes every day.
Right. Which I think that's funny. And then let's see here. Then there was also Steve Martin, who adapted several bits of his stand-up act to fit within the film, such as a monologue in which he emotionally exits a scene, remarking, "I don't need anything," but nevertheless picking up each object as he passes on his way out.
Right. Each object, no matter how irrelevant it might be to his current circumstances. Although, when I think about it, probably could have used a chair. The chair is probably more comfortable to sit on than a hard concrete. But he was just grabbing random objects. So it's definitely a classic moment. Steve Martin and co-star Bernadette Peters were in a personal relationship during production. So that would account for her tolerance for face licking.
Right, I think so too. I think he gets a pass for that. I could just see, you know what, we've been in this relationship for about 4 weeks and 5 days, and that day turned into 3 days and 2 days, and that 1 day. So you have opportunity to lick my face. By the way, that is a direct quote from The Jerk.
Right.
But yeah, I could see that. Then, of course, according to his book, Born Standing Up, Steve Martin's favorite line in the movie is ad-libbed, which his character is hitchhiking. A man in a truck stopped and asked, "St. Louis?" To which Martin replies, "No, Nathan Johnson."
Yeah, that's funny. It shows how dumb he is. He's just so dumb. He's just so dumb. In the beginning of the movie, Nathan is at the dinner table with his family and bursts into tears. The director intentionally did not tell the actors who played his younger siblings about the scene. The astonished expressions on their faces is genuine, since they did not know what was happening.
That's great. I really love that.
Right. Just being cruel to little kids.
Let's see. We also have this. Actually, was Steve Martin's first starring role. That's actually pretty interesting. I didn't even know that was his first role.
Yeah, I didn't realize it either. I was like, oh, let me put this in there. Steve Martin's favorite scene involves Emmett Walsh shooting the cans at the gas station. So everybody likes that. That's Steve Martin's favorite scene.
Let's see. A sandwich shop in Oregon named their jerk chicken sandwich the Navin R. Johnson sandwich.
Yes, I like that. I like that because if you go to a shop and it says Navin R. Johnson, you've seen the jerk, you get it immediately, and then somebody else will see it and wonder, who is Navin R. Johnson? Is he the owner of the shop? So, the gigantic house shown in the film is the infamous Sheikh Al Fassi mansion on Sunset Boulevard in Beverly Hills. The first time the residence appeared in a major motion picture. The property was selected over about a half dozen contenders, which included the former Harold Lloyd and Marion Davies estates. One reason this abode was chosen was because it's very large, and spacious rooms meant that any filming done in one part of the dwelling allowed great vista shots of adjoining areas at the same time. The mansion also had its own basement disco where the dance scene was filmed. The 38-room mansion no longer exists. It was torched by an arsonist in 1980, and the building was demolished, with the site becoming a vacant lot. A sad ending to such a prestigious estate.
Exactly. And this is why Steve should have stayed at his home. He should have just stayed. Maybe should have just stayed at his house and they wouldn't have burned down his house. But no, that he just had to leave. So
he had to find himself. He had to find himself to see who he was.
Right. And to find his own rhythm. Yeah. So he can go back home so he can have the rhythm of his own steps while also having the rhythm of his family.
He learned the rhythm.
The hard way. So, the film originally had 2 trailers. This was a tongue-in-cheek presentation that began with a large printed message for theater managers only. Steve Martin is sitting at a desk talking to the camera. He lets the theater managers know that he's in on the fact that moviegoers are morons and they will go for anything. Describing his new movie, he says that the film has everything a love scene, a high-speed car chase, guns, a dog, and more. Plus, it has some boring scenes so that the audience will go to the lobby and spend money on snacks.
And I shared that scene with you earlier.
Yep.
What were your thoughts on that hidden trailer?
I thought it was hilarious, especially for Steve Martin to do something like this and breaking the third wall in a sense. This had like very Deadpool-like vibes. I would like to see Deadpool pull something off like this.
Right.
But, I thought that it was fantastic. I thought his delivery of it made me laugh and chuckle because I would definitely be cracking up the whole entire time in the movie theater and stuff like that too to see this. What about you though? What are your thoughts on it?
I thought it was funny when I saw this piece of trivia. I immediately went looking for it because I thought maybe it's not as hidden at all. Because originally this piece of trivia said that it it hasn't been seen since it first premiered at the movie theater, because this trailer was only in the movie theaters. It wasn't shown on television. So I was thinking maybe this piece of trivia isn't up to date. So I just typed it in the search engine. I Googled it and it was right there on YouTube. And I was like, and it was a great quality too. It was a great quality video on YouTube. I'll leave the link in the show notes of this Steve Martin trailer. And it reminds me of an early trailer for Johnny Dangerously. It was a very similar vibe where you had the bad guy from Johnny Dangerously and he and his henchmen, they break into a projection office and they start talking about the Johnny Dangerously movie. And they're talking directly to the audience of the Johnny about, the shenanigans that's going to go on in Johnny Dangerously. So there are not a lot of trailers like that. I doubt there's going to be a trailer like that for the Transformers, for example.
Right. I don't see that either. I don't see.
But I'd like to see, like you, I'd like to see Deadpool do something like that. That would be cool.
That'd be hilarious. I would, especially for like the opening scene where it's just like a trailer for the movie itself before the movie starts. I would love to see that.
Right. That would be awesome. So Steve Martin, favorite moment of the film. Apparently another favorite moment. I told you got to be careful with IMDb because he has a bunch of favorite moments. But as detailed in his 2007 memoir, Born Standing Up, was a scene in which he and Bernadette Peters sings "Tonight You Belong to Me." Now, this is going to be funny because this is related to the piece of trivia that we just read. Remember, Steve Martin in the trailer says that there's going to be a boring part in the movie that's going to allow people to go and get popcorns. So his favorite part, according to his book, is that part when he and Bernadette Peters sings "Tonight You Belong to Me." Martin felt the moment was touching and waited in anticipation at the film's premiere screening in St. Louis. Unfortunately, much of the audience left during the scene to buy more popcorn. That was the time that they chose to buy popcorn in his favorite scene of the movie, right?
I you know what though? I was thinking to myself, this scene is like least lackluster, so I'm like, yeah, I would definitely want to check myself out for a minute, go get some popcorn, go to use the bathroom, then go back to watch more of the movie.
Right.
So yeah,
right.
This would actually be my mark as well.
Right. Like if you had to leave the movie theater or leave the theater to go get popcorn or use the bathroom, this would be the scene to do it. And he was right. He didn't know that he was right, but he was totally right about there being boring parts of the movie where people can get up and get some popcorn. So what's the next on the list?
So the idea for the film came from a stand-up routine of Steve Martin included on his debut comedy album, Let's Get Small, in which he claimed to have been born a poor black child, and how after hearing his first Mantovani record, he decided to become white.
Yeah, and that's pretty much exactly how it plays out in the film. He believes that he is born a poor black child. He's not black. He was left on the porch, but they never told him that he was not a natural born child. So yeah, that, and then he plays a record, he feels the rhythm, right? It's the first time that he's actually on beat, and then that's when he decides to go out into the real world. So Steve Martin and the dog got off on the wrong foot when he accidentally dropped mittens on the animal's face. From then on, it cowered when he tried to pet it. Martin recalled, "It was miserable. He hated me." That
explains why he was always growling.
Yeah. It reminds me of that moment in the film. Remember, he's walking somewhere and he's dragging the dog along. It seems like
that was whenever he lost his job over at the carnival. He goes, "Me and my trusted dog are leaving the carnival."
Right.
And leading the way. And he's actually the dog leading the way while the dog is hanging on. Because remember, he's like, "Now I'm going to let you go." And before he can even finish his speech, the dog turns around and leaves.
Right. he's having a speech where he's breaking up with the dog and the dog runs away. And then he's like, "No, I changed my mind. Come back."
I'm back here, shithead. Yeah.
Right. Something like that happens. Right. And then the next thing you know, you see him and he's dragging the dog and the dog doesn't want to go with him anymore. So yeah, that's why this movie is funny.
Definitely. And then many movie posters featured the following blurb: "He was a poor black sharecropper's son who never dreamed he was adopted. Steve Martin in The Jerk. A rags to riches to rags story."
Right. It is definitely a rags to riches to rags story. And then to riches again, because at the end of the movie, he is redeemed. When Navin receives a gold chain, he's actually got a bunch of gold chains on, but when he receives the gold chains, he's wearing a King Tut mask pendant. This is a tribute to Steve Martin's song King Tut, which debuted on Saturday Night Live on April 22nd, 1978. So I listened to the song. It's a pretty cool song. Go check that one out.
Okay, I'm going to have to do that after this.
Yeah.
The film's title grew out of conversations between Martin and Rayner. Some of the working titles were Money to Burn, The Jerk, A Wild and Crazy Movie, and Easy Money. Rodney Dangerfield released a comedy called Easy Money in 1983.
Yeah, so they went through some things. And then there was someplace else I read that he wanted something that was a short, impactful title. Like there was one filmmaker, he had a film called The Idiot. So he wanted something that was short and impactful like that. So he got The Jerk. So that's it for the trivia. And up next, we're going to talk about what the critics thought. So the critics on IMDb gave it 80%. The audience gave it 65%. I don't have the Rotten Tomatoes score. Let me go look that up real quick. Let's see what they said on Rotten Tomatoes. I happen to have the website open, and I'm on the Jerks page. And let me see what they say. I always have a hard time finding it, but it's 7.1 out of 10. So, yeah, it's comparable. It's pretty good. People like this movie. So, why don't you tell us what the first couple of critics thought?
Okay, so Dave Carr, Chicago Reader, the verbal and conceptual gags belong wholly to Martin's own brand of goofiness, and some of them are pretty funny.
Yeah, I agree.
I do too. I definitely agree with that. The wittiness of it and just how funny it is. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Then John Scow, the True Time magazine, its humor is successful and unsuccessful by turns. And although comedian Carl Reiner is the director, the instinct here is to give both credit and blame to Martin.
Yeah, given that this is a comedy, your mileage with the humor may vary. But I thought it was more successful than it was unsuccessful. And
Same.
Yeah, but definitely if somebody were to say, well, I didn't like the movie, even though Carl Reiner directed it, is basically Steve Martin. It's like Steve Martin let loose.
Steve Martin uncaged.
Right,
exactly.
Right. So Brian Egert from Deep Focus Review wrote, with comedy legend Carl Reiner directing and unforgettable supporting roles from Jackie Mason and Bernadette Peters, the result is an incredible mix of barbed satire, silly pratfalls, and at its core, sweetness. I think that perfectly encapsulates the film. And then Roger Ebert, I'll go ahead.
No, I definitely have to say it is definitely an unforgettable supporting cast, for the roles of Jackie Mason and Bernadette Peters. I think that those were actually pretty neat to actually see them on screen,
Yeah, absolutely. Roger Ebert from Chicago Sun-Times wrote, we get the sense at times that the cast and crew arrived at a location, found the script bankrupt of real laughs, and started looking around for funny props. And I totally disagree with Roger Ebert because I didn't think the funniest parts were the props. I always thought that the funniest parts of the movie to me were the setups and the jokes, or the misdirection that was in the movie. So, I often disagree with Roger Ebert, so it's not a surprise.
Right. I do too. I find myself disagreeing with him on several other things.
Right.
But I love listening to people that I disagree with, because if I ended up listening to someone that I do agree with, then what's the purpose of me listening to somebody else with different opinions? So That's why I like listening to him. But, I definitely have to say that it's not the props that are the standout. It's Steve Martin and the jokes and the bits that he's doing.
Right.
Because he's the one who makes those props work, especially with the exploding cans, because nobody could actually make a bit like that but Steve.
Right. Also, the thing about, like I said, the comedies, it's subjective. So you're going to have some people that's going to laugh at it and some people that's not going to laugh. So it's hard to judge a movie based on how funny it is, because I might go into another movie and everybody else is laughing and I'm not laughing. So it can happen, right? I'm sitting in the theater going, why do people think that this is funny? And me not getting the joke, or the joke not being in my specific taste. So it's you can't account for taste.
No, you can't.
So finally, The Jerk is, as of this recording, available wherever you stream your movies. That's it for today. Next week, we have a special guest, Mark, from a brand new podcast called Casual Nonsense. Join us then. Follow us on Twitter or TikTok at Backlook Cinema, or Facebook or Instagram at Backlook Cinema Podcast. And if you're on Mastodon, at Backlook Cinema at mstdn.party. Don't forget that you can contact us with any questions, comments, or suggestions at fanmail@backlookcinema.com. So, John, do you have any additional plugs?
Yeah, a matter of fact, we just released your episode with Rossie, because she actually has a spinoff show called Rossie Talks About Movies and Everything in Between. Zoe was actually on 2 of those reviews. I've edited one of them, and I'm going to be editing another one very soon. But the one Piggy is now available for you guys to listen to on the audio podcast, and that's only on audio podcast only. So go on ahead, check out Piggy, give us some extra downloads and everything. That's always helpful. Go on ahead, subscribe over to the YouTube channel, listen to us on wherever you guys get your podcast from. Zoe's going to probably try and be on my show sometime in the future as well. He's just an awesome host. I do appreciate him so much for allowing me to review this movie, because I enjoy watching The Jerk.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate you being on the show. If I hadn't said so before, thank you for being on the show.
You're welcome. Anytime.
So, one last time, if you like this show, then please help us grow by spreading the word about Backlook Cinema, the podcast. And I know you've enjoyed our guest, John, so please listen to Movie Lovers Unite. Believe me, it matters. I've been Zoe Richardson. Be safe. Share a movie from yesteryear with your family, hug your loved ones, and if you're going to be anything, be outstanding.